When I need to impress someone with a gift, I go straight to 1-800-Flowers. There's a reason they've spent 50 years as the floral authority. Every stem is hand-selected by a vetted florist, and with same-day delivery nationwide, 100% satisfaction guaranteed. That's why millions go to 1-800-Flowers to celebrate life's most important moments. Order now for up to 40% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. Act now and save up to 40% at 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast. That's 1-800-Flowers.com/podcast.
You are listening to Hillary Topper on Air. And now, here's your host, Hillary Topper.
Hello, and welcome to Hillary Topper on Air. I'm your host, Hillary Topper. Thank you so much for joining us today for what promises to be a very exciting episode. We love talking about innovation, business, and technology that makes life easier for runners and cyclists and swimmers. Today, we're diving into the world of travel planning with John, the visionary behind TravelRunner.com. We've all felt the stress and time-consuming nature of planning the perfect trip. Juggling flights, hotels, and activities can be a real challenge, especially when you're racing. That's where TravelRunner.com comes in. It's a platform designed to simplify the entire process, helping you find and book unique travel experiences without the usual hassle. We're going to explore how it works, who it's for, what makes it different from other travel sites out there. So let's get into it. John Potts, a very warm welcome to the show. It's great to have you with us.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. So let's start from the beginning. Every great idea has a story. What was your personal travel experience or frustration that sparked the idea for TravelRunner.com?
Well, one day I found myself at an airport outside of the Newark airport. At a hotel outside the Newark airport. And I looked around and I said to myself, there is no way I'm going to get a run in here because I was surrounded by highways. And, that was the first time I really remember thinking, gosh, if only there was an application where I could look up hotel reviews and figure out great places to run. And, kind of since that day, I just thought about it more and more every time I stayed at a hotel. And I said, oh, this is a great running hotel. Or, oh, this running hotel sucks. I mean, like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm staying at a Hilton. There's no gym. What? And, for someone who, like myself, I work out every day. And, it's important to me to work out every day. So, finding those hotels always took, poring over Google Maps and looking at data. I tried the Strava route, and it's just everywhere. You can't tell a thing from the Strava routes. And further on down the line, I stayed at a Westin in Birmingham, Alabama. Because I figure out Westins, they're great running hotels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not this one. Sorry, Westin.
Oh, wow.
That wasn't a good Westin. So I stayed there one night, ran a route, which was sort of acceptable. Then I checked out and moved to the suburbs for that stay in Birmingham.
Wow.
But anyway, I'm just going to keep talking unless you want to keep asking questions. But
I guess the next question for me is, how did you come up with the name?
Well, that's kind of interesting because I have another Instagram account called Opus Run. And, a lot of people, runner space know me on Instagram as Opus Run. And I've got a lot of friends, which is nice because in general, I find some of these runners are really nice people. Uh,
Absolutely.
and but when I started popping the name Opus Run with regard to this website, I didn't get a good response from it. Opus Run, okay. So I started looking around or thinking about other names. And for me, a name is really important if I can make a .com out of it. And fortunately, TravelRunner.com was available. And so I said, okay, let's go with that because, it's kind of got more than one meaning. Because sure, we're traveling and running, but also Travel Runner could be a website that finds things for you. And so I just felt that the name had more universal appeal.
So walk us through the website. What exactly is it? How does it work? How does somebody jump on and become part of it?
Well, first, the website's first intention was to make hotel reviews from an athlete centric view. And, what's important to an athlete? Well, for me, running. For me, the gym. But for someone else, it may be the pool. For someone else, maybe other activities available at the hotel. A lot of hotels will have, free yoga classes, for example. And that's important to a lot of people. But it was originally as a hotel review site so that I could go, you know, figure out where the best hotels are to stay at. And I sort of wanted to keep it that way, and I had no aspirations of building something more. But we ran into a problem, and that is how do we find the hotels and integrate them into the website? For that, we needed what we call an API, an application interface. And um, these are sort of hard to come by for hotels. And there's a few companies that have them. And, so I started trying to get one of these companies, you know, interested enough to partner with us to give us access to their API. That was kind of difficult. And, because you don't have a website, you don't have a following, you don't have, millions of viewers on a link or anything like that. But I did find a company called Hotel Beds, and I pitched Travel Runner to them just as we're talking about it here and what the purpose was. And they gave us access to their API.
Hmm.
So what that also brought, besides the ability to map hotels on our maps and store reviews for these hotels, what this also gave us was the ability to provide a booking service for these hotels through the Hotel Beds API. And now we commenced with building out a website where you had not only the ability to do reviews, but also the ability to book that hotel. And this whole process is non-trivial because you're not building a, you know, WordPress website. You're building an enterprise style website, and there's a lot of things that have to go into that. If you're going to book a hotel, you need the ability to pay for that hotel. You need the ability to refund that money if the person booking the hotel wants to cancel that reservation.
Mhm.
Um, and there's a bunch of little things that have to go on to have that happen. And so it's taken quite a while to put this all together. And we are just now getting to the point where, we're certified by our partner for the booking and the API. We have to get certified for this. That is, you have to, build out your website and then submit to testing by their side to make sure that you're complying with all their rules and procedures for doing things.
Mm.
Um, the last bit of certification that we're now in the process of obtaining is a closed website for members who are paying. And we're doing this so that there's another level within the TravelRunner.com family, and that is a pro membership where we can offer hotel rates that are below what you can see when you Google search a hotel rate, for example.
Interesting. So walk us through. Okay, so I'm a runner. I have a race coming up in Missouri. This is hypothetical, right? And I need to book a hotel around that race site. How does that work? Can you walk us through that?
Sure. So if you have a city that you're going to or a region that you're going to, you type that into the looking for a place to stay, which you'll see when you open up the website. And you'll enter in your dates, um, and then you'll do a search function. We have several categories for searching. We have a general category, but we also have a running category. We have a gym category. We have a budget category. You can search by star rating of the hotel, or you can just kind of generally look at the hotels. Um, and then the hotels that are available will pop up on the website. And a map will pop up with pins. And you
Mm,
can, zoom in on the map close to where the race is going to start, for example, and start searching your hotels there, which is what I would recommend. Um, the process after that is just like any other booking process. You select your hotel, you make a reservation, you enter in your data, and voila, you have a reservation. Now, I would be remiss in saying that if you have a race in a specific city, that there's oftentimes the race promoter will offer hotels on a negotiated basis. And in this case, their rates could be, because they're special rates, less than the travel runner rates. And so I would go right ahead. I would recommend booking that hotel in that case, if that's the
mhm,
hotel you want to stay at.
mhm,
It could be that's not the hotel you want to stay at, or it could be the race hotels are quite a bit more expensive than the regular hotels.
mhm,
And we find this um, at Boston every year. The hotels that are close by or off the website are oftentimes far more expensive than a hotel that's further off, and you can access the race via the subway system there.
mm.
Um, and
Interesting.
and it, you have to look at traveling as you got to watch your money on this stuff, because oftentimes a race, let's take one that's particularly famous for jacking up their hotel rates, Grandma's Marathon in Duluth.
Mm, mhm,
You know, that city during a race, the hotels will jack the hotel rates up far above a normal rate. And it's just horrible. Oh yeah, Holiday Inn, $500 a night,
I've been there.
and you're like, what?
Really.
That's just horrible.
Hmm.
Um, so hopefully that answers your question. How do you
Yeah.
book a hotel?
So, what would you say is the single most unique feature of TravelRunner.com that sets it apart from other major travel booking sites?
The ability to find hotels that are conducive to your running athletic lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
You
Great.
know, that's the key. And truthfully, you know, I'd much rather thousands of hotel reviews for me personally so that I can pick a great hotel to go run at.
Mm-hmm.
um, than anything else. I mean, it's sort of self-serving. The more people who, come to TravelRunner.com and put in hotel reviews, the better because, it helps me out when I'm traveling and I like to travel. So when I'm going to visit my parents in, you know, Raleigh, North Carolina, I need a good place to stay.
Absolutely. Well, I won't even say it. Anyway, so with TravelRunner.com, is it geared for a specific type of traveler, like solo adventurer families, luxury seekers, or is it for everybody? Anybody who has that athletic inclination?
Well, the nice thing about Travel Runner is that it's not specific to a race. It's not specific to a location. Uh, it's, we have 250,000 hotels all over the world in our database. It's any type of travel. When you're traveling on business, when you're traveling to visit a relative, when you're traveling for a race, it can be helpful. It's geared to everyone who, is athletically minded, wants to run, hit the gym, go for a swim, a bike ride, whatever your athletic pursuit is. We're there to help you find the right hotel for you.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the online travel industry because it is very competitive, as you know. What has been your biggest challenge in launching and growing this business in such a crowded space?
Well, first, we are just now entering what I would call the promotion phase. And you can't promote enough. Um, we have sort of a luxury in that we're unique in the industry in that we're focusing on a niche market, runners and athletes. We are part of that community. We are not some corporate, you know, travel, wannabe out there. We're a member of the community and we will continue to be a member of the community and we will support, other people, organizations that are also in our community. And that's where we want to be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I love that about you guys. I think that that makes you special and unique. And, I mean, we want to all support each other, right? Like
Right.
that's what this is all about. Um, so talk to us a little bit about your business model because that's kind of interesting. Like so you said earlier that you were going to have a subscription and that subscription base would enable people to find less expensive hotels. Uh, but but what about like somebody who doesn't subscribe? I mean, how does that work? And, you know, is there like a commission base? Like, how is that like working in terms of your model?
Well, as you mentioned before, the travel industry is very competitive. Margins are very, very tiny.
I'm
And uh, ultimately, it's a numbers game. Can you find great deals on travelrunner.com as an ordinary website that you come to? Sure, you can. But, that tier is not always going to be the less expensive option. It will be the option that provides you with a great place to go running, however you choose to book it going forward. Um, the a pro membership tier, which is $20. That $20 is refundable on your first booking.
Oh,
So
wow.
it doesn't cost you anything. And there's a method to my madness in this, and that the goal is be a part of the community. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we're not going to make a super lot of money on TravelRunner.com, but
Right.
we are going to provide a service to our members to help them get the most cost-effective travel that they possibly can get.
Now, for me, right, I travel a lot for business and I'll stay at a hotel, and sometimes it's in a funky kind of area where there's no running paths or anything around. Like all I could do is like run around in circles around the hotel, like which is insane, right? So are there any place within the website that shares some of the interesting locations that you can also run when you're traveling?
So, in this sense, I think you're saying, "Hey, can I go drive somewhere when I'm
Right.
out there running?" Okay, in our diary section, the intent here is to provide more in-depth information about a location or a city that you're possibly trying to travel to. And these diaries, or mini blogs, you may call them, are intended to last forever and they're searchable. So, for example, if you're going to travel to, oh gosh, what's one we recently put in there? Nairobi.
Okay.
So if you're going to travel to Nairobi, I have no idea what's in Nairobi, right? Ordinarily. But, one of our members made a great little, hey, running in Nairobi, and made a great little article about running in Nairobi, things to do, places to run, uh, things you can't miss while you're eating or, when you're there. And it was just I look at that and I say, man, that is just the perfect, diary example that I could bring up for running in an area that I personally have no idea about. And it's great and it's interesting, because, who knew people run in Nairobi? I didn't know that. I mean, I thought they're all up in Iton, at the big training camp up there. But no, there's regular people that go running in Nairobi.
Okay. That's awesome.
And,
That's
and
so cool.
and you can see, animals there like giraffes and elephants while you're out in the front. Like, really?
I don't know. Maybe make me run a little faster.
Right? I, I was like, okay. Oh yeah, there's an elephant there.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
That's that's crazy. That's so awesome. So tell us what's next for TravelRunner.com. Like, do you have any new features coming up? Expansions on the horizon that you want to share with us?
So we're going to continue to develop the website. Um, First thing you'll probably see is more, uh, booths at expos, marathon and other running expos, where we try and, just connect with more people. Second thing is, at some point we're going to add in rental cars and airlines. Um, Another thing coming up is more of a section on runcations because we can't really, talk about runcations because it's not specific to a hotel necessarily. It's specific to an area or a region. I have a really good article right now that's being edited for the Galapagos Islands.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really good. And it talks about, you know, what's special about a runcation in the Galapagos Islands. And, how do you do it? A runcation in Galapagos. Okay. But I got a really good one coming up on that. In fact, this particular runcation will be one of our award winners for 2025, the runcation of the year for Travel Runner. And then the last thing that I'm contemplating at the moment is Podcast Corner. Because a lot of people, when they travel, they want to listen to podcasts, but where do you get them? I feel that there's can be some organization done to podcasts.
Interesting.
So Podcast Corner, I'm going to go to Hillary Topper, for example. I want to listen to a few of her podcasts. I want to A, download them from her website, and B, I want to, maybe I don't have time to listen to them, but I can read through them. So I want to see the text from her podcast and maybe download that as well.
That's very interesting. I wonder also about cyclists. Like, would you consider at some point having some kind of relationship with bike transport groups?
Absolutely. If you think about travel running, you think about all the possibilities of how this brand can be extended. And, I, cyclists, what's a good hotel for a cyclist? I know some, you know, I know some really good ones. And a lot of the same things about a running hotel also will apply to a cycling hotel. I want to get out on a path. I want to do it quickly, and I want to cross a lot of city traffic streets. And I want to do it safely,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yep.
is super important. Um, let's talk about one best bicycling hotel. You know, I like Intercontinental on Michigan Avenue in Chicago. Why? Because access to the Lake Michigan, trail system is really good
Oh,
there.
that is so cool. That's
And,
cool to find out.
and that's a great cycling path because they have dedicated bike lane for the
Very
cyclists.
cool. Yes.
And so north to south on that is gotta be over 20 miles on that cycling path. So I
Wow.
mean, you can round trip that and you're at 40 miles for your ride. That's a great ride,
That's definitely.
particularly if you're, you know, on a little trip and say, oh, let's get some cycling in.
Uh-huh. Great. And finally, for anyone listening who's tired of stressful travel planning, what's the one thing that you'd want them to take away from TravelRunner.com?
Well, knowledge is power. And if you know you're
Mhm.
going to a place where you can, you don't have to stress about getting your run in or your workout in. You know the gym is good. You know the run's going to be good. Hey, I can get out on my bike if I want to. Or, oh, hey, they got yoga. I'm going to do that after my work day or before I go to work. That is to me relaxing. That takes a lot of stress out because, how do I, relax? Well, I relax by my athletic activities. So if you know you've got that in your pocket, that takes the stress out.
Absolutely. That's great. And then last question, how does somebody get in touch with you and learn more about TravelRunner.com?
Well, you can go to the website, TravelRunner.com. It's pretty easy to remember. You can contact me at opusrun@travelrunner.com or run@travelrunner.com. All the little names for travelrunner.com, you can find us there. Website's pretty easy to navigate. We've done a lot of things with making it fast. And
It's awesome.
yeah,
This
thank
is a
you.
great service for runners and triathletes. So thank you so much for doing this. This show was produced by Hillary Topper and sponsored by the Russo Law Group, Long Island's signature elder law, estate planning, and special needs law firm. For more information, visit vjrussolaw.com. And PlayTry, your multi-sport specialist for all your triathlon needs. They have so many opportunities, including franchising. If you love the sport of triathlon, check out playtry.com and learn more about opportunities, or if you want to shop there, check them out. They've got great prices and they've got amazing customer service.